Hello, and welcome to Back Through the Lens, where two film school friends talk about movies through the haze of nostalgia. The good, the bad, and the ones that aren't quite how we remember them. I'm your host, Rachel, and with me is my co host, Joe. Today's topic is remembering Val Kilmer, and specifically remembering him in Batman Forever.
Yeah, in today's episode, we're remembering Val Kilmer, an actor from our childhood that has played so many iconic roles from Jim Morrison to Iceman to Doc Holliday and, well, Batman. It's safe to say that one of our first times we encountered Val Kilmer as an actor was in the 1995's Batman Forever, so we thought it would be fun to revisit this time capsule of a mid-90s superhero movie.
I thought that we should talk a little bit about where the Batman franchise was at this point before we get into this, because there was a lot of stuff around Val Kilmer being Batman.
Yeah, franchise-wise, this movie is definitely a pivot.
Oh yeah, because new Batman, new director.
New everything.
Well, let's start from the beginning. Briefly, we had Batman in 1989, directed by Tim Burton. Michael Keaton was Batman. Jack Nicholson was the Joker. I think it's pretty safe to say that this was everyone's ultimate portrayal of Joker until maybe Heath Ledger, but I specifically remember shocked reactions when we found out Heath Ledger was going to be the new Joker because he was so not Jack Nicholson.
Well, right. I feel like we have as many Jokers as Batman, and each iteration of Batman comes with its own Joker, and it's needed and warranted. I was on the camp of a little bit surprised about Heath Ledger, but at the time, all the roles led up to that just seemed very, I don't know, bubblegum for the most part. At least the ones I've seen, the one that were mainstream, I should say.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that people didn't really see him as much as a dramatic actor, even though he had to have done Brokeback Mountain at that point, right? Because didn't he
I
die
think so.
right before his Batman movie came out?
He died in the midst of making, I think, a Terry Gilliam movie. Well, it was after this. And then he was replaced by like 3 other actors in that movie.
He was not alive by the time The Dark Knight was getting awards buzz for his performance. Because I remember Tom Cruise accepting his Oscar for him or whatever. So I think that was maybe his last completed movie. That being said, though, I guess my point is, despite Brokeback Mountain, he was still kind of seen as a rom-com kind of teenage sort of actor.
Yeah, kind of a pretty boy, I guess.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for.
Yes, but wrong franchise.
Yes.
Let's take a step back 30 years. Yeah, Michael Keaton, Jack Nicholson. I really can't think of anyone who would be a Joker like in this time frame than Jack Nicholson. He already kind of looks like him, and then they put prosthetic facial features on him to make it look crazier, but like it already kind of fit the part.
Yeah, I've kind of always seen the Joker when I see Jack Nicholson, even in other movies, where he's not covered in makeup, because partially this is what I grew up watching. I was 4 when this came out, but I remember we watched this movie all the time. I don't think I understood who Jack Nicholson was, of course, but later when I got older and I saw him in other things, I just remember his eyebrows specifically. Like I couldn't not see the Joker.
Yeah. It's the smile for me.
Yeah, that too.
It feels like every time he smiles, he's like a caricature of himself.
I could see that, yeah.
But it was a pretty good success. The movie, not Jack Nicholson, but also Jack Nicholson.
Also Jack Nicholson. Yeah. He did okay for himself.
He did all right. He's been in a couple things. I've seen him. I've seen 1 or 2 of them.
Right. So this is a success. It's followed up with Batman Returns, 1992. You have Tim Burton and Michael Keaton returning, Danny DeVito as the Penguin, and Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman.
Probably in this franchise timeline, maybe my favorite. Everything gets upped a little bit. It's not as crazy as what we're about to talk about, but it's a little more over the top as far as set design, costuming. Still a little bit more grounded, but the first Batman in '89 was definitely darker, a little more grim, kind of what you think of the Christopher Nolan series. everyone talks about how good Jack Nicholson was as Joker, but Michelle and Danny and these renditions of these villains are great. Like they totally transform Danny DeVito.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. And I haven't seen either of these in a really long time. Obviously, I was looking up information on all of these movies when we were preparing for this. And, when I was looking into Batman Returns and why, this was Tim Burton and Michael Keaton's last Batman movie, photos of Danny DeVito as Penguin obviously came up. And I was taken aback by how honestly gross he looked.
Oh yeah,
The teeth, I totally forgot about that. Like, I don't think I remembered how completely he like disappeared into that. Because also when I envision Danny DeVito, I probably picture like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia at this point. Just like
at this
kind
point,
of like
yeah,
short, goofy Danny DeVito, not whatever this monstrosity is.
pulling out a gun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Besides the height, you can't tell that's him.
Mm-mm. Like I said, as I was diving into these, I have learned that Batman Returns did not do as well as the first Batman. Apparently, a lot of parents were upset with how dark Batman Returns was. Both the studio and I guess whoever these parents providing feedback were felt that it wasn't as kid friendly. The studio in particular wanted something more merchandise friendly, draw more kids in, the McDonald's Happy Meal toys of it all, I guess.
I mean, to be fair, Penguin's big ultimate villainous plot towards the end of the film is to literally lure all of Gothamite's firstborn sons to a watery grave. I could probably understand why the parents are not cool with this. Like, you're
I
marketing this to
yes.
my child, but then you're killing all the children in the movie. We're gonna pass on this one.
Okay, but okay, sure. But also, how many of these kids have watched every Disney movie where the parents are killed off?
This is true.
I also thought about this actually when my son was young and we were watching Hocus Pocus, that it's basically a movie where they're trying to kill all the children. And
Hmm.
if you think about it too hard, anything is kind of
Well,
inappropriate.
I think it's okay. I was what 7, 8 when this came out,
I
not
mean,
even, and
we're the same age, so yeah, same.
yeah. So it's a movie, and also we know Batman's gonna save the day. So come on,
Y-
parents.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of where probably my parents were with it, especially because like my brother and I had already seen the first one. They probably knew what they were getting into. And yeah, Batman's like not gonna fail. The funny thing though is that I also read that again, part of the complaints were that Catwoman was too sexualized, something about too much leather.
I mean, yeah, yeah.
I feel like I
I
need to revisit this because I mean, granted, how old were we? This was 1992, 7,
hmm
8. This definitely was not my takeaway from Batman Returns, but So, in our little Batman history, people are upset about Batman Returns. People want a more kid-friendly Batman movie. In all the interviews and articles I read about this, they called it Batman Light. So they brought in Joel Schumacher because from what I gather, he's a pretty, we'll say, populist filmmaker.
I don't know. We're saying Batman light. Joel Schumacher reminds me of Michael Bay light.
Mm, they wanted more goofy, like Adam West Batman, I believe.
Well, they nailed it. Because I wrote that later on in my notes somewhere that like the more I think about this, I can see where this is going, or an ode to maybe, or a wink at,
Hmm.
because it's a little over the top at times.
Oh, yes, definitely. And we even get that little bit of dialogue that's, we will get to, that's definitely an homage to the
Hmm.
Adam West version of Batman.
Right. So Tim Burton's out,
Hmm.
right? They said.
Yes. Tim Burton's out.
You're too creepy and weird for us. Yet I didn't realize he was still acting producer of this film.
Yeah, I didn't realize that either. I saw it, come up in the opening credits when I rewatched it for this episode. So maybe they just made a deal with him. They were like, go away,
Right.
but we'll still find a way for you to make money off of this.
Yeah, I think he hated everything about it, besides maybe the paycheck. Well, they wanted Michael Keaton still, I think, right? And
They
he met
did.
with Joel, and he was like, "Nah, I'm also out."
That is the gist that I got from the little bit of research I did. Yes, he did
Okay,
not like the new direction it was going in, so he bowed out.
okay, fair.
He-
Eventually, we got Val Kilmer.
mhm.
Um,
Apparently, according to an interview I read in the New York Times, Schumacher had seen Tombstone, really liked Val Kilmer in Tombstone, brought him in, and depending on who you believe, was maybe the only person Schumacher ever really considered for Batman, but who knows?
in Schumacher's defense, after watching Val Kilmer play Doc Holliday, I'd put him in any fucking movie, also. But
I haven't
that's
seen
just my
Tombstone.
that's my just you wait.
Just you wait. Yeah, honestly, I feel like if nothing else, rewatching this and doing the little research we did just made me want to binge watch Val Kilmer movies because there's so many like big ones I haven't seen. So
Mm, me
blind
want
spots everywhere.
to. Oh yeah, made me want to watch more Batman movies. But that's just me, I guess.
That too, honestly. I feel like especially the first Batman, that's up there in my childhood probably with like Ghostbusters.
Hmm.
Ghostbusters 2 though, not
Hmm.
Ghostbusters 1.
And not Ghostbusters 3.
All right. So we are brought up to our movie. It's Batman Forever, directed by Joel Schumacher, released June 16th, 1995, and rated PG-13.
And if you haven't watched Batman Forever, Batman, who, as we said, is now played by Val Kilmer, is having an identity crisis of sorts. But no, not because it used to be Michael Keaton, but because Bruce Wayne is struggling with his work life balance. Can he be both Bruce Wayne and Batman? Meanwhile, Gotham is introduced to the Riddler and Two Face, whom Batman needs to defeat in order to save both his identity and the city of Gotham. On top of all this, Bruce is now a parental figure to a newly orphaned Dick Grayson, aka Robin, who will eventually become Batman's sidekick.
That was a very nice intro.
Thanks.
So, first time seeing this, I know I went to see this in theaters. My brother and I were just super into Batman when we were younger. I think I've mentioned it before that I was never like into the comics or, like superheroes in general or whatever, but I feel like Batman movies were just like a big part of our childhood. And it was always such a big deal. Like, which villains are they going to use? Who's going to play the villains? What big names did they get? Couldn't tell you the last time I saw it, but for sure the first time I saw it was when it came out in theaters.
I am fairly confident I also saw this in theaters. I know I didn't see the first two Tim Burton ones. I think I was a little young, and maybe with that rating, my parents wanted to do a little preview first. But by this point, I remember, I mean, if I'm being honest, this movie for me in 1995 was all about Jim Carrey.
Hmm.
And we were all excited to go see him play a Batman villain. And he was red hot coming off of Ace Ventura and Dumb and Dumber like in the same year. And it's a good theater flick because it's definitely a popcorn picture.
Hmm.
Explosions everywhere, funny, often bad lines given at inappropriate times. Last time I seen it before this episode, I will go in cycles and watch some of my old favorite movies or movies I can just kind of put on in the background. So I would say between 5 and 10 years, I probably went through the we'll call it '90s Batman franchise, the
Hmm.
two previous ones, this one and the ill-fated Batman and Robin movie. Oh yeah, if you think this one gets campy, hold on to your butts.
Yeah, I honestly do want to rewatch all of them at this point, but yeah, I haven't thought about Batman and Robin in a really long time.
Mm,
I really
yeah,
had
that's
forgotten about Batman Forever until you brought it up with our first season, having talked about both Val Kilmer and Nicole Kidman,
yep.
and in different movies. And I don't know, I just forgot these existed. I guess. So right off the bat, these credits are so 90s.
Oh yeah.
They're, like, zooming through the screen, like, not even really long enough for you to read them, and everything's just I don't know, it's so cheesy. Already, like, as soon as it started, I was like, "Oh my god."
I agree, but love it for some reason. It definitely sets the tone, unfortunately, but it's so it's so 90s. Like you see the names and they like come towards the screen and then go away, but then like in the foreground they rush by in different angles that you can't read them, and they're all color coordinated. For
Mhm.
example, Jim Carrey is green. They all like represent their character, and when you're 9 or 10, you're like, yeah, I know that guy's the bad guy because of this color, and it's cool.
That's true.
Association's cool, kids.
Yeah, we're already setting, like, a really silly tone with these, like, zooming credits, and the very first scene is Val Kilmer suiting up as Batman, and they do this really goofy zoom in on him. Like, they do a full body shot so you can see his whole, Batman getup, and then they do this, like, loose, like, I don't know how else to say it, but this camera shot is not serious. I they're kind of, like, going side to side and eventually getting onto Batman, and it's just not that kind of hero, like, close up where you're supposed to be in awe of, like, what is in front of you. It's just like, "Ha Batman."
You'd think that camera shot was like POV of a bat or something. It is really like wavy and
Yeah.
wiggly, and I don't. It's weird.
Yeah, I guess, like, all I could think of, like, was this handheld? Like, what happened?
Maybe it was the
Um,
first drone used, and no one knew how to operate it. I don't know.
I don't know. I
It's
mean,
not good.
all I'm saying is if you wanted to set a different tone than the Tim Burton movies, you have already succeeded. Absolutely. Um,
Check.
yep. And then immediately after this weird zoom, Alfred is asking Bruce Wayne, Batman, if he could at least pack him a sandwich, and Batman says he'll get drive-through, which I feel like is just a line tailor made for their like future McDonald's partnership.
Listen, this movie's all about breaking the fourth wall in a way, not directly, but like it definitely makes you aware that you're watching a movie, and all the jokes are like that because you're 10 years old and you go, "Oh, that'd be so cool to see the Batmobile in the McDonald's drive-through." No, it wouldn't. It's stupid. Go away. Also, this is a grown ass man fighting villains nightly. I think he needs more than the sandwich, Alfred. I never fully believed in Val Kilmer as Batman Bruce Wayne. He is like a tiny, at least in this movie, a tiny, kind of effeminate looking guy. He's very
Mhm.
pretty, he's very handsome, and he looks fine as Bruce Wayne. He looks suave. I get that. But then, like, there's something about his face in the mask. It makes his eyes look too narrow and close together. And any close up they
Mm.
have of Val as Batman in the cowl, just for some reason, I lose it. Like, it doesn't feel believable to me. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I had a note that for me, like Val Kilmer worked for me, but I actually think that he worked for me as Bruce Wayne and not Batman
Yeah,
because he was very suave, very handsome. I could totally see him being like this rich kind of like playboy, which I feel like is sort of Bruce Wayne's persona to the
supposed
general
to be.
public. Right. We will get into it, but there were a lot of scenes with him as Bruce Wayne that it felt like he was in a different movie maybe than everyone else.
You probably wish
He
he was.
he probably wished he was. I don't really have strong feelings about him one way or the other when he's in the Batman costume.
We'll say about his Batman costume up until towards the end, the logo on his chest is, I'm not sure, slightly altered, but it's definitely in the vein of the Tim Burton, the yellow with the black symbol. It
Mm,
changes at the end, but I did like that they kind of kept that because despite everything changing in this movie, they do have nods to the other two films here and there. So
yeah,
like they're
there's some
supposed to convince the audience that this is the same universe,
mhm.
just different face.
I did think about how different Val Kilmer and Michael Keaton look, though, in case they were trying to go for any type of implied continuity there. Our first big bad that we meet is Two-Face, correct? There's like an
Yes.
opening scene where he's, I don't know, terrorizing a bank guard. I don't know. Um, I feel like it was maybe surprising that Tommy Lee Jones was cast as a Batman villain. I feel like he was already famous, but not for, but like for serious things.
Yeah, I still to this day, when I like watching it the other night, like he's in this movie. Like I know that as a fact. Like I know Tommy Lee Jones is Two Face, and you watch, you're like,
Hmm.
oh yeah, Tommy Lee Jones is Two Face, and it is kind of weird, and I don't want to say off putting because it works, but he's always done some more serious things, and when he's funny, he's like old man dry wit funny. And I
Yeah.
think I should have looked this up before. This is probably pre Men in Black, before he's like
Oh, I
is
forgot about
partnered
Men in
with, and
Black.
he's still a serious guy in that
Yeah,
movie.
because he's like the straight man. Yeah. Hmm.
So yeah, it's just in this movie he's just over the top, which is usually not what you think of with Tommy Lee Jones.
But then the funny thing is, if you compare him to Jim Carrey's Riddler, like he's still kind of the straight man. Like,
Yeah, but Jim Carrey's supposed to be over the top. He's Jim Carrey.
I do enjoy that they always have to make a big reveal of like the bad side of Two Face's face. They do it here where you see him, I don't know, kind of talking to this bank guard, and then he finally turns his head and you see like the damage side. But also, now having seen Christopher Nolan's franchise, Aaron Eckhart, that's his name, right?
Yep.
As Two-Face in that franchise, when he turns his head in the hospital bed and you see like his eye socket and like the holes in his face, like that's like etched into my
Oh yeah.
mind. Like that's a scene I feel it I have not really forgotten. And so compared to that, you're just like, oh, okay, they put some purple paint on you. Good for you.
They tussled his hair,
Yes.
gave
Hmm.
him some bad lipstick.
Yeah. It's funny. I remember the action figure of Two-Face from this movie, and it was just like this perfect, line down the middle of his face, and he's just like purple on one side. That's about the extent of it.
Yeah.
Like
And
Aaron Eckhart's face was like melted off.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit more etched in realism, but of a
Hmm.
different time. We're talking about over the top comic book movie. Let Joel
Hmm.
Schumacher cook, okay?
We need it to be more family friendly. We need to sell that merchandise.
Yeah, instead of a burned off face, we're just gonna make it slightly disfigured and purple. And then anytime they show it too, the lighting changes to come almost like hide it a little
Hmm.
bit.
Yeah, I thought that too. It's almost like you never really get a good look at the messed up part of his face, but like that's probably on purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is his darker side after all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Nicole Kidman pops up as a random woman named Dr. Chase Meridian. What is that name?
Sounds like a bank to me.
Yeah.
Like I bank at Chase Meridian.
Yes. I just like immediately could not handle her character. She's vamping it up so much,
Mm-hmm.
and she has this conversation with Batman when he first appears on the scene of this like robbery, whatever it is. I don't know why she's there. Is it because she's a doctor? They think she can help with Two-Face? She's there for some reason. No one knows.
Uh, I don't know. She shouldn't be there.
she well that's yeah, she should not be there. But yeah, like this, you know, kind of horrible things going on. The bank's getting robbed, someone's in trouble. Two-Face, you assume, is gonna kill people, and she's just like vamping it up with Batman,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, "Oh, you just moved to town." Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, like the dialogue and the way they're talking is so stylized, and I assume they're trying to do kind of like a comic book thing or almost like an old school like, I don't know, superhero and this is his love interest thing. I don't know what to call it, but there is
Yeah.
definitely a cadence to the dialogue in this movie.
Yes, when these two characters talk specifically to each other and only to each other, it does give me the feeling of like like something like from the era of The Apartment or whatever, where like there's that fast talking quip like, "Yeah, Shane, we're
Mm.
gonna do this thing," and then like she's like everything's innuendo, and she's always like breathing heavy. Like, give this woman an inhaler. I don't know what's going on.
She's like basically constantly trying to seduce Batman. And I mean, immediately all I could think of was like, oh, this is like the more family friendly Batman. Okay.
Right? Yeah, yeah.
Immediately when we see like what's going on in this robbery situation, Two Face has this guard in a safe as a trap for Batman, and Batman just immediately like hops into this trap. And I was just like, "Sir, you were just very immediately like literally hopped in. Didn't really think about it." Um and then the safe starts filling with boiling acid, and we get some really cringy dialogue that, made me think of Danny Green in Kill the Irishman, where they're literally yelling, "It's a trap! Oh no, it's boiling acid!" I
Right.
was like,
My shoes are melting.
immediately, I was like, "Oh my god, this is going to be a long 2 hours."
I also didn't realize it was 2 hours till about an hour and a half in. I was like, what the hell?
Yeah,
The last half hour is when the wheels fall off the Batmobile.
yeah.
But we're not
I'll
there yet.
give you, I'll give you my take of when I, when I felt it was all falling off. But
Was it
already, I
now?
was it. I got more into it than I expected, but right off the bat, I was like not looking forward to the rest of my like hour and 50 minutes.
It doesn't start strong, right?
Right.
But you get sucked in. They, big sequence opening of this action movie, and they're in a helicopter or whatever afterwards, and it's just like bad green screen. Probably thought it looked cool in 1995, and as they're like, it's such a 90s thing. Two Face puts, I don't know if anyone remembers the club for your steering wheel, so that your car doesn't get stolen. But he puts that on the steering wheel because helicopters have regular car steering wheels to keep it going straight so they can crash into, was it the Statue of Liberty? Are they in New York? What the fuck was that? It's some sort of
I thought
statue.
I always heard that Gotham was supposed to be Chicago. I don't know if I'm right on that though.
I thought so too because Metropolis is supposed to be New York, but
Oh,
they
okay.
definitely crash into a statue face, right?
Yeah, they crash into something. I also think it's funny that Two-Face is constantly like killing his own men by accident.
Yeah, he's definitely chaotic, but I love that. Batman villains kind of need to be at least one of them, and he kind of feels a little bit like a Joker character. Like
Yeah.
he,
Yeah. I don't know. I was just immediately like, big green screen action sequence. I don't know. But I missed the club completely. So,
oh yeah, wow,
yeah. That's why there's two of us.
yeah.
Gotta fill in those gaps. Obviously, we've mentioned already, but like Jim Carrey is the Riddler in all his like 90s Jim Carrey glory.
I was just gonna say that word. It is Jim Carrey glory.
I have not seen any of his early stuff in a really long time. Obviously, you know, I was into all his stuff when I was younger. I went to see Ace Ventura 2 in the movies, like the weekend it came out, probably. Like, I don't know how to properly convey how big he was.
I mean, just Google search mid '90s Jim Carrey, and there's like 20 movies in three
Yeah.
years or something like that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And, people made such a big deal about like his facial expressions and him having this like rubber face and all this. I remember that being like mentioned all the time. And so I know you mentioned part of the reason you were so excited about this as a kid was because Jim Carrey was one of the villains. And I agree with that. I remember it being such a big deal. Like, oh, the Ace Ventura guy is going to be the Riddler. Like, that's cool. You know what, though? As an adult, got over it real fast.
Oh no, no, no. Star of the show, the glue, the green glue that held the mess together.
Okay, here's the thing. I will agree, absolutely, he was the star of the show, but oh my god, the way his mouth moves, especially the first scene we see him before he's the Riddler, when he's, like, trying to, I don't know, cozy up to Bruce Wayne and get his experiment funded or whatever it is. I would die if this man was talking to me like this for so long. I just, like, I don't know. Already, I was like, "I can't do this. I have, like, an hour and a half more."
Yeah, everything is accentuated. I get it.
Yeah, it's the over it's accentuated, the, like, he over enunciates, the way his like I said, the way he moves his mouth around his teeth to say words in a way that he doesn't need to. Like, I just couldn't. I I understand why I thought it was funny as a kid, but, oh my god, immediately I was like, "Wow, this is a lot."
You gotta wonder how much was Jim and how much was Joel. Like, I can just imagine that scene. But all right, Jim, accentuate your jaw more. No, more. You're being. This is a serious part. You gotta look serious. More. He
Yeah,
probably felt like an idiot.
I could see that. I actually was less bothered by him when he was the Riddler, to be fair. And I mean, yeah, who else could have done that role like that? I completely agree with you.
Hmm.
It was just already when we're introduced to him in that first scene, before he is the Riddler, he's just some, like, scruffy, like, kinda sad sack scientist who also wants to do mind control. I don't really know why he thought that was gonna work out for him.
I think the mind control was a bonus, which I think I
Okay.
might have caught for the first time here when he is after he meets Bruce Wayne and after he's like, "Oh yeah, let's have a meeting," and blah blah blah. First of all, let's point out that this guy meets the bajillionaire boss personally
Mhm.
of this tech company, and his boss is agreed, despite the multiple red flags of this invention, to have a sit down and hash things out, talk about it.
Mhm.
And he's like, "I need an answer now." It's like, what the? No. Well, then no. And it's like, how you just man, you shot your shot, and were you even playing the same sport? I don't even know. And
Right.
so that was crazy. So then he kidnaps his more direct rapport, and he tries that the box on him, and he is also wearing it. I forget. They don't explain why he also has to wear it.
Well, it's this is his mind control device he's come up with.
Right, but that's where I'm getting at. So I forget his boss's name, whatever. He's watching a fishing show, and it's
Not
becoming
important.
right. It's like a
Yeah.
3D thing. He's involved, and then Nigma puts it on, and then he takes it off when he said something about like a happy side effect because he felt smarter. So I think it was. I never noticed that line until this watch. So I don't know
Mhm.
if this invention that has messed with his brainwaves as well was like what birthed the Riddler. Like how Two Face got the acid, this guy accidentally had this device that made him smarter by pulling brainwaves from this
I
other
see what you're
guy.
saying. Yeah.
There's a lot of bad science involved, but you know.
Yeah. Yeah, but then immediately after, Riddler, who's not quite the Riddler yet, kills his boss,
Hmm.
pushes him out the window, the very high up window of this lab. Somehow he messes with the computer system to make it look like a suicide, makes it look like the guy ran out the window. This suicide note, it literally says, "To whom it may concern, goodbye, cruel world."
Well, it's also
Which
like written out like an email, but it's not an email. It's handwritten and it has a subject. It says RE colon suicide. I never noticed before.
or like, was it regarding my death or
So I
something?
don't. I
Suicide,
couldn't.
yeah.
I had to watch it 3 times. I kept laughing. It was so quick. It was so quick. And then they give it to the commissioner, and he's like, "Yep, that's a suicide." You don't say.
Yeah, that was, almost more than any other part of this. It was like, okay, yes, like comic book
Yeah.
Adam West-esque, like, yeah, that whole bit. I guess it's been a very long time since I've seen this. I didn't expect them to, like, show the letter, and so then when it was like, "Goodbye, cruel world," in very big letters, like, it took up the whole page, I was like, "Okay." Just that's fine, whatever, it
Yeah.
worked.
Yeah, that worked. So did that window breaking very easily at that level. I think that would probably never happen, but that's okay.
Yes, yes,
Don't think they make like half ply or half paned windows for giant towering buildings.
that's a good point. Actually, my dad works in windows and siding, so yeah, it's a very good point. He works in, making sure everything's up to code. I think their company would have gotten sued. But anyway, so I guess, Riddler's free to be the Riddler now? I guess we should mention his name was Edward Nygma, right? Is
Yes.
that how okay. Forgot about that part too.
Mhm.
Nygma is a really stupid last name, and it upsets me. I understand, I get it, okay, but, like, Nygma. Like, I couldn't handle when his boss was angrily yelling, like, "Look here, Nygma." Oh, I did like your note, though, about his apartment.
Oh yeah, when he's not quite Riddler, but he just got the first taste of villainy because he, murdered somebody. But yeah, it's like a big mess. But this scene sticks out to me. It always has. It's even though we're like getting a glimpse into what will become the Riddler's layer, and I use that term loosely. We only see this thing twice, maybe three times.
Mhm,
The vibe is so different. You almost feel for Nigma
mhm,
because his apartment is just a big mess. He looks like he's like a sad, lonely man. Clearly puts a lot of time into his work, which is fine. He has a bunch of weird, I'm going to call them riddle pieces, like Riddler pieces, like that will later inspire his outfit and his persona. And
mhm,
they're all over the place. And then it's just lit differently. Jim Carrey, I don't think he has dialogue in this scene, but he's just like moving around the apartment and is this is before his hair changes for 500 times. He's like kind of
yeah.
shaggy, dirty red hair. And then they have the Flaming Lips song, and everything just seems like a different movie almost. Like it feels like Nigma's about to be the one that commits suicide, not his boss. He just seems so sad and
Mhm.
lonely, but yet the tone is kind of upbeat because of the music, and the lyrics are apropos, which I find funny. But
Yeah, they're obviously painting him as this, like, kinda solitary, almost like an absent-minded professor kinda thing.
hmm
Yeah, it was I did feel for him in that scene. I completely agree with you, and I like that little peek into, like, what his life is like, and you maybe start to understand why he wanted, like, Bruce Wayne's approval so badly for his experiment, all of that, but like you brought up earlier, Bruce Wayne didn't say no. He just said, like, "Make a meeting with my secretary and we'll discuss it."
yeah,
And because he demanded an answer immediately, Bruce Wayne had to say no, which is, like, actually really reasonable.
yeah,
So I feel like Riddler kind of made his own villain origin story, so
yeah.
actually, both of them blame Bruce Wayne in a sense for becoming villains, but wasn't he just kinda being nice in a way to both of them? Because Harvey Dent was a prosecutor, and
I
he
think in
went in
this
the
movie
same
he's a
circles.
yeah. I think in this movie he's a prosecutor.
Okay.
I think maybe he's DA. I'm not sure, but no, it's funny because Riddler blames Bruce Wayne. Two Face blames Batman. So it's the one thing that might be, even though it's a low hanging fruit in the way it's
Mm.
done, the duality theme of this movie is pretty cool.
Remind me why Two-Face blames Batman?
They showed him like I think it's after the acid scene. It's like a news clip. Bruce Wayne's watching it at his house, and he was prosecuting one of the crime bosses, I think Maroni, and Maroni's on the witness stand, and he like grabs what looks like a flask out of his suit and like splashes acid at Two
Oh.
Face, which he covers up the good side of his face with a sheet of paper because that will
Yeah,
protect
I
acid.
noticed that, mhm.
But in that court scene that's replayed on TV, Batman is there and he's like shown trying to save Harvey, but he's too late. Which also, why would Batman be there? How is he supposed to know this guy's going to splash him with acid? I don't know. So he
Yeah,
blames
okay.
Batman for not saving him in time.
Okay.
That is what we're
Yeah,
supposed to assume.
that's a reach.
Well,
You got to set it up somehow. I get it. Can't just hate him for being like the good guy and you're the bad guy. It has to be more than that.
personal
Hmm.
vendetta.
Yes. I wanted to mention this scene where Bruce Wayne meets Chase Meridian for the first time as Bruce Wayne. This just illustrates a problem I have with this movie as a whole. I don't feel like anything comes up naturally this whole time. Like they have to put in these really like awkward lines of dialogue that I feel are very shoehorned in. And in this scene, you see it where I don't remember why they're meeting specifically, but he's just wandering around her office, like looking at her things. And he brings up this, I guess it's sort of a dream catcher kind of figurine.
Yeah.
And we know that she's into different religions and mysticisms and things like that. But he picks it up and he says, "Still playing with dolls, doctor?" And I just feel like in almost any other movie, they might have just shown it
hmm
and he could have asked what that was. Like,
Yeah.
I guess all I could think through this whole movie was they are just telling us so much, or like very obviously telling us what we're supposed to be paying attention to, telling us what's important without really showing us a lot. It relies so much on the dialogue to move everything forward.
Yeah. In that same scene, there's a ink blot in the wall, and he's like, "You got a thing for bats?" She's like, "No, it's ink blot, you idiot. You do." It's like, thanks.
But
Yeah.
you know what? I'm sorry. That inkblot totally looked like a bat.
Of course it did.
Yeah, he really is not great sometimes at hiding his other identity. Like, there are just multiple times where I'm like, you dummy, don't say anything about bats. Like,
Yeah. What's your favorite animal? Bats. No, lions. Damn it.
no, they're just. I guess I feel like if I was Batman and trying to hide it, I would never talk about bats in my everyday life. Unless
Yeah.
someone brings up Batman as a general, like,
Yeah.
crime fighting good guy. I don't know.
Then you'd be like anti-vigilante, like, no, he's a bad person. Like, which you see in a later franchise. Anyway,
Hmm.
yeah, I felt like,
Um,
again, duality in this movie. Bruce is struggling with playing both roles, and it's starting to seep out. It seems like, if I could maybe save this a little bit, it's just it's there. I think it's there. It's just the execution through the bad dialogue is a choice.
yeah. Yeah, I eventually realized this was like supposed to be the through line of the whole movie. Specifically, there's some part where he like remembers, I don't know, his dad's journal the day they died or something, and
hmm
he does eventually like confess to Chase Meridian in a doctor patient sort of way that he has all this trauma and stuff. And yeah, dual lifestyles, whatever. But then they just kiss about it, which is like entirely inappropriate.
You mean it's inappropriate to kiss your patient? Are they
Well,
even
like
like?
they're on a date later
Oh
and he starts
yeah,
trauma dumping on her. And he's like,
yeah.
I've never told anyone this before. And instead of like kind of like switching into doctor mode, which I understand is probably confusing already because they were definitely on a date, she
hmm
kisses him. And then they never really go back to discussing his like deep dark secret that he apparently had never told anyone before. Like it's kind of a big deal.
Right, yeah. And
Yeah.
also know it's bullshit. 'Cause I'm sure Alfred knows everything, but
Oh, Alfred definitely knows everything. Yeah. I don't know. They kind of lost me with that whole, like I said, I understand they were trying to have this through line of him wrestling with both identities, but it's really they do a really poor job of keeping that to the forefront. And like I actually ended up finishing this thinking that Val Kilmer was in a sense barely in this compared to like the Riddler and Two-Face.
yeah, this is definitely villain heavy. But that's because they're over the top, and Joel Schumacher is over the top. Val Kilmer
Everything
is
is over
like
the top.
definitely the most serious part of the movie, even as Batman. Although there's some arguable. performances and lines as Batman. But yeah, it's about
Yeah.
the two villains being cartoony for sure.
Yeah, Val Kilmer definitely gets off like some one-liners as Batman that fit in with the whole rest of the vibe here. But especially when he's Bruce Wayne, he just plays it so straight that it really is like he's in this whole other movie compared to everyone else. And I don't know, to be fair to him, like, how would you act if you were a billionaire trying to hide the fact you were a superhero? I don't know. Maybe you would be super duper straight laced. But again, stop bringing up bats.
Right, yeah.
But anyway, he takes Chase Meridian to the circus. I completely forgot that this is how we're introduced to Chris O'Donnell's character, Dick Grayson,
Hmm.
aka Robin. Forgot that his entire family died in like a circus accident brought on by Two Face, like trying to rob everyone. I
Know this movie needs more of childhood trauma.
could be a Disney movie.
Chris O'Donnell, I think, was 25 when this movie came out or was shooting. And so he's definitely not, I don't think he's supposed to be Boy Wonder as like a 9-year-old kid that Bruce Wayne finds and, brings in. So I think Robin in the comics is Robin at like 12 after some training.
Okay,
I
I
think
had no
Chris
idea he
O'Donnell's
was that young.
supposed, yeah, he's a young, that's Boy Wonder and all that stuff, at least in the original,
Oh,
like, Sunday comics. But
hmm.
this is clearly not that.
Yeah,
And
clearly.
I think he's supposed to be like a college age level, like 18 to 21. Still kind of young, but uh, I think they wanted more of a big brother kind of relationship between him and Bruce and like a father son for the movie. Um,
I could see that. I was just really confused about his age when you have the scene where Bruce is taking him in and Robin is dropped off at his house and he says something like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to split. I just wanted to like not do the whole like social services, like family services thing. To me, that indicated he was like under 18.
mhm.
I understand that you could be over 18 and like, not have the means to fend for yourself if your entire family just died in a freak acrobatic accident. But that doesn't mean like family services would be involved.
Right, because sometime in that scene or that sequence where he's shown around the house and whatnot, he had mentioned Bruce, that is, had mentioned something to Dick about colleges or something. Like, are you gonna look at a
Oh.
college or something like that? So he could still be not quite 18, but I don't know.
I guess the point we're trying to make though is this Robin looks like he is solidly in his 20s.
Oh yeah. Like the first scene when he's in like the Flying Grayson
Mhm.
leotards, they does look a little younger, but then everything after that, I'm like, no, this guy is clearly mid-20s.
I also just wanted to point out too during this circus scene before Two Face comes in, like ruins everything. Bruce and Chase Meridian are on a date, except that she doesn't seem to think it's a date because she tells him she's already met someone else and she's referring to Batman.
Hmm.
I guess I wasn't sure where we were going with that. Like, did she think there was a universe where she would date Batman?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay.
Oh yeah.
I guess I'm just thinking about this. Like, you were asked out on a date by this, like, handsome billionaire. Like, as far as you know, he seems nice, whatever, nice enough to go to the circus with. And you're like, I'm going to stop this right now in its tracks, even though I'm currently on a date with you,
Hmm.
because I fell in love with a superhero, don't know who he really is, have not seen his entire face yet.
Why go to the circus on a date to begin with if that's on the back of your mind?
Yeah, that's the thing too. I was like surprised she even accepted the date because obviously they're getting a lot of publicity, like being on the date because it's a fundraiser and he's, famous and wealthy and whatever. But then it flips over eventually to her turning down Batman because she likes Bruce Wayne too much.
Duality.
Mm. Also, potentially one of the worst shots in the whole movie, in my opinion, is when she has this conversation with Batman, turns him down basically. He turns around to face the camera, his back is to her, and he gives this like incredibly cheesy like smile because he
So
knows for
bad.
it's so bad because he knows for sure that she is into Bruce Wayne the person and not
Hmm.
Batman,
Yeah.
but it's like I don't know, the most like overactory like gotta make sure we see you smiling, make it real big.
Yeah, that was bad. It was very bad.
Super awkward. Poor Val Kilmer.
Like
Because
it
I
looked
mean,
like it hurt his face doing that.
yeah, yeah. It doesn't look natural at all.
No. And this scene's later on in the movie, and this is like after a conversation Bruce has with Alfred about like, I think she likes this guy, but I think she likes this guy. Both guys referring to himself. And Alfred's like, "Oh yeah, have the lady choose." So he like shows up at her apartment at midnight upon request, and she's like clearly not wearing clothes. She's just this sprawled out in the bed in a sheet. Like, what the hell? Comes in her open window, and
Mm-hmm.
she's vamping it up again. She's like, I know I invited you to a date,
Mm-hmm.
but I have somebody else in my mind. So she keeps doing this. She can't decide.
We should also mention that she invites him over at midnight after he saves her from like a robbery. She is at Enigma's party to reveal his like mind device, whatever, but he's like marketing it as some sort of like TV innovation. Unbeknownst to everyone else, it's like stealing their intelligence. Two-Face crashes it because he wants to get Batman to show up, and like she's kind of like briefly in danger. Batman saves her, and literally like everyone's running around screaming, and she's like, "Come to my apartment at midnight."
Yeah.
Just like the absolute lack of awareness. Like, read the room, Chase Meridian.
Read the room of hundreds of people screaming.
Robin lives with him now. He's convinced to stay because of motorcycles.
Yes.
It's fine, whatever. Um,
What is going on?
this movie is so bad.
How dare you? Motorcycles. The way that any 9 to 25-year-old's heart.
Anyway, somewhere in all this, Riddler and Two-Face decide to team up. I feel like Two-Face is so annoyed with the Riddler from the beginning, and like I felt that because like I like I said before, I appreciate that Jim Carrey was the right person for this role, but like, oh my God, if I was Two-Face and this man
Mm-hmm.
came prancing into my house.
And he does some prancing. He's very flamboyant in this movie, and it's great.
Yes, that's the that is the word for it.
It's over the top.
I would like to point out though, well, first of all, I like Two-Face's lair. I like his very split down the middle lair.
Mm-hmm.
It's very really hits you over the head with that Two-Face thing.
Oh yeah.
I forgot about him having like a girlfriend for each of his personalities. I definitely remember Drew Barrymore being in this, but I forgot about the whole double girlfriend thing.
Yeah, everything has to have balance, I guess. I don't know. It when he first comes to the lair, or right before Riddler shows up, and the girl's like, "Oh, you had a hard day. I prepared you this meal. I prepared you that meal." It's so like extraordinarily opposite. It's ridiculous.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
it's so silly.
Okay, though. I wanted to point out, like, watching this as an adult, I understood more of, like what each girlfriend was presenting to him for dinner. The, what's the bad side? Spice?
Spice, sugar, and
Yeah.
spice.
Okay. She offers him like a burnt piece of
Boar.
like, yeah, boar and like grain alcohol.
Yeah, just grain alcohol from a chalice or something.
Right. And like, obviously none of this meant much to me as a kid watching this, but yeah, as an adult, I was like, what? Like,
Yeah.
sir, are you okay? I mean,
Yeah,
obviously he's not, but
he's not. He's not okay.
because
Yeah,
I
her meal actually doesn't sound that good after all because it's like
no,
burnt boar and raw lamb and grain alcohol. It's like nothing's just
it's like he's in the Middle Ages or
yeah.
something.
How do you like your meat, raw or burnt? All right, pick one. That's all you get. We can't
No
cook
in
here.
between. Yeah,
No,
can't cook here.
we don't have a meat thermometer.
Yeah. So, what was the point of this? Oh, we liked the we like Two-Face's lair, but I would also like I don't blame him for being just completely pissed at Riddler. Like he only prances. This is how he moves. Like I don't think it's an understatement to say he like prances into the lair and then he prances around while he lays out his plan and like I don't know,
Right.
man.
I think on a technical level here, continuity. Notice this time that, and it made me mad because he enters the lair and then he's like, "Oh, what are you doing here?" And he's like, "I'm so smart, I figured this out." I'm like, "Okay, cool." And then Two Face lets him do his spiel, and he calls the girls over and he puts the box on them. They're already there in the lair. Like he must have. Did he come in, leave them, and leave? Like when he
Oh
enters the lair, he's
yeah.
not carrying anything besides his probably his cane, right? His
He
question mark
probably
cane.
like stashed it somewhere. Like who
But like
knows how long he had been there?
they're just sitting on the tables in front of TVs. It's like, wait a minute, how did what? Nobody cares. They're just there. It works.
Yeah. Yeah, I missed that too, but yeah, you're right. I don't know how to segue into this, but we go back to like Bruce Wayne having, he's like reliving his trauma of his parents getting killed in front of him. And he says, just like my parents, it's happening again, referring
Mm-hmm.
to Robin.
Yep.
Again,
Yeah.
like, no, none of us could have figured that out. We have to like say it.
Yeah. I feel like anytime there's a new actor playing Batman, we have to do a flashback of Bruce Wayne's parents. It's like
Yeah,
this is the same, supposed to be the same franchise. So it's like, yeah, we get it. We literally watched them being murdered in '89. I don't know. It just seems like it's every time there's a new main actor, we get that no matter how old the actor is or what version of Bruce Wayne it's supposed to be. It's like, oh yeah, in case you forgot, his parents got murdered and he fell down a well. Got it.
Oh yeah, and found the bats.
Yeah.
Only scared at the beginning, according to
Mm-hmm.
him. I
Yep.
remember that part. Yep.
And while that's all happening, Master Grayson sneaks into the Batcave through a series of acrobatic maneuvers, which just get off my fucking ceiling, kid. Like quit climbing around my house.
Well, we have we have to drive home the point that him being an acrobat actually makes him the perfect sidekick for
Yes.
Batman.
Yeah.
Because earlier we see him like wringing out his laundry by doing like kung fu acrobatics with it.
Yeah.
Like he's wringing it out to then hang it on the clothesline. But he can't just do this like a normal person.
Yeah, he's got
Number
to do
one,
like
he
some
can't just hang
moves.
it on the clothesline. Number two, there is a dryer.
There is.
Yeah,
It's right there. Maybe
it's
he
right.
prefers not to dry his clothes, like in a dryer.
He's energy conscious.
He's wasting a lot of energy trying to put those clothes on that line. It's a lot of kung fu maneuvers for two socks and a pair of sweatpants. That's all I gotta say.
That killed me when he threw up his shirt and like punched his arms through the sleeves. Like, my God. This is when my int like I got into it for a little bit and I was like, this is fun. It's
Mm-hmm.
fine. It's fun. Around like the hour mark, it was like downhill for me
Ah,
personally.
see, to me, it just had like speed bumps, and it's like, okay, that's ridiculous, and then we just kept going, and then that gets ridiculous, and probably the bumps get a little bigger as the movie goes on. I would say, but
Yeah, I guess I just hit a point where like it stopped being fun and it just was consistently too ridiculous and I kind of just wanted it to
mm.
be over.
Speaking of ridiculous, I
Mhm.
do love when Robin, not yet Robin, he steals the Batmobile and he like finds this like neon glow stick gang or whatever. I always thought those guys looked so cool.
I know.
Like I want more of that gang.
I remember thinking that was really cool when I was a kid. I remember that part. But yeah, they're all like I don't know, it looks like he just drove into a rave with
Mm-hmm.
like black lights
Mm-hmm.
and like their makeup's all like glowing and stuff. I guess what he actually drove into was like a rough part of Gotham, I think is what we're supposed to get, but with a lot of neon.
Yeah.
I don't really know what Gotham is, I guess. There's also, if you notice, like a neon like McDonald's sign in the beginning of the scene.
I don't think I saw
Yeah, there's,
that.
like, the big M,
Yeah,
like, when he first drives into the neighborhood. Like, again, gotta get that gotta get those
endorsements.
Happy Meal the
Yeah.
Happy Meal partnership. And The Offspring is playing when he first drives up.
Yeah, it's like a cover song,
Mhm.
but you hear like 2 seconds of it.
Yeah, I completely forgot they were on the soundtrack.
Yeah, because there's like two songs that you only really should care about on the soundtrack, and that's at the very end of the movie. And we'll definitely talk about them.
Yes, we are definitely gonna talk about the soundtrack.
Although
Um,
Offspring is cool. Always having Offspring is good.
I was very into The Offspring at one point in my life, yes.
Hmm. I still am, but very much like this movie, kind of like 1990s version of Offspring.
Yeah, yeah. That's where we're going with that, yes.
Hmm. We have to
Um,
tell, not show. This is a podcast. So
I
Batman's
mean
big mad at Robin, right?
I
Because
mean, rightfully so.
he stole his car and
Mhm.
also got into a fight with Glow Stick Gang.
Mhm.
I just bring all that up because I like how Alfred is just kind of pushing Dick Grayson to become Robin. Like he knows he's seen it before, right? He's seen a
Mhm.
young man torn, watching his family die in front of him, and he's helping him find an outlet for all this anger.
He also I think it's Alfred who notices, like, the robin on Robin's, like, motorcycle helmet,
Yeah,
and it has something to do with, his acrobatic act, but it's like so not only does Alfred, kinda steward these 2 young men or whatever, he also manages to connect them to flying animals for their alter egos. I'm looking at your note that when Batman goes to visit Chase Meridian in her apartment, it looks like Satine's Sweet and Moulin Rouge.
it does. Just the layout of it. You have the bed, the wind. I expected like a bunch of bohemians to poke their head in the window when they were having their conversation.
And she does have like satin sheets.
Hmm.
I get it. We already talked about all this stuff between him and her. I don't want like I feel like their relationship was the worst part of the movie to me because like the dialogue was so bad.
And the relationship wasn't needed. I think I forget what kind of doctor she is. Something with the mind, obviously. To
Yeah.
what degree, I don't know if they told us or if I just forgot because it doesn't matter, I guess. So she's there to kind of, again, play with duality of Batman, so like Bruce Wayne. She's a love interest to both characters, which is typically what seems to happen in these movies. And I guess a very loose conduit of Batman, like accepting, or Bruce Wayne, I guess accepting he's Batman or vice versa, because like that's comes to fruition later in the movie. He's like, I can be both, and you're like, yeah, okay,
You already were, but okay. Like and part of this is like him kind of feeling like he could have a relationship with her, as Bruce Wayne, but like she's gone by the next movie, right?
new
I
movie, new
mean,
love interest.
sucks for him, I guess. I don't know. We're getting into our big climactic ending, right? Riddler and Two-Face infiltrate Wayne Manor, which,
Yep.
by the way, we know it's Wayne Manor because there was an earlier scene where Riddler, before he was like officially Riddler, drives up and says Wayne Manor in a very menacing way.
Yes,
Um,
Wayne Matter.
okay.
It's so ridiculous. I love it.
Yep. I would have never guessed that the big mansion belonged to the billionaire Bruce Wayne, but thank you for that
Hmm.
very obvious dialogue, as usual. How does the Riddler get into the Batcave so easily? I do not understand.
Because he's a genius.
Okay. You just think there'd be, I don't like a code.
All I can say is that at the gala, Edward Nygma tricked Bruce Wayne to use his machine. He got all of his secrets. That's how he knows he's Batman. So I'm assuming there's other things he knows about Bruce Wayne. He also, they do show him using his cane, and then like
Mhm.
the question mark opens up. And it's all like blinky green, and he
Mhm.
pushes a button, and then the door opens. So
Oh, like maybe he
I don't know.
overrode it or whatever.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay. You know
if
what?
you
Fine.
haven't suspended any sort of disbelief yet,
Yeah.
just you've gone too far into this movie without doing that.
Okay, because there's a shot where he basically opens a door and he's like, jackpot. And you're like, Did he just open the door to the basement and,
Yeah.
like, walk into the Batcave? Okay, so fair. Bruce Wayne kinda gets, like, grazed by a bullet enough to, like, knock him out. Alfred and Chase Meridian get kidnapped. It's a whole thing. No,
Hmm.
Alfred doesn't get kidnapped, sorry, but Alfred's, like, subdued somewhere.
They hit him over the head and lock him in a closet.
Right,
Yeah.
because then he, like, nurses Bruce Wayne back to consciousness. Robin Robin gets kidnapped, but not yet.
Not yet. He wasn't there because he was already mad and had left. They have a
Ah,
fight, and then he
like you
comes
do.
back. Alfred probably called
Mhm.
them. Who knows?
Yep.
But the whole point is they, as the villains, think they destroyed all of Batman's toys because Jim Carrey has another ridiculous scene where he's just going around. I'm sorry, he's prancing around the Batcave,
Mhm.
throwing these little green bat-shaped bombs everywhere and destroying his
Mhm.
suit and his tech and his car. Now, no one could stop the bad guys because they think that if they get rid of all this stuff, they stop the man himself.
So, this last half hour is definitely, like, I was not into it, like, I was done. But,
Yeah, it gets a little, yeah.
uh, Batman and Robin go, I don't know, fight Riddler and Two-Face. He's gotta save Chase Meridian. I did very much enjoy the scene where they land on this, like, is this supposed to be a fake island?
I believe so.
And I'm gonna mess it up because 'cause I'm not gonna get it right. If you remember it, take the wheel, but,
You mean when
uh
he a little ode to the Adam West days and
mhm,
Robin
mhm.
jumps on this island and he says, "Holy rusted metal, Batman!" It's like the ground, it's metal and it's holy. Or
And he's like,
it has
"Oh,
holes
okay."
in it. He's like, "Oh, okay." But yeah, he totally gives us a boy wonder line there.
Yep, yep. But also I like how Val Kilmer reacts like, "What?" Like,
Hmm.
"This is the wrong iteration of Batman, stop it."
Right.
That's all I really have to say about the last half hour.
Well, yeah, okay, so speed through it, obviously. Everything blows up. No more Batman, except for, oh wait, I still have this new suit that's all silvery gray, and we have to, make sure we get the butt shot in that. That was weird. And oh, we didn't talk about the nipples. There's nipples in this movie, but on the suits. Not as bad as the next movie. That movie gets that's the nipple movie. But we're talking about this
Yeah,
one.
that's what I thought, that one was the one they more so talk about the nipples, but no, there's nipples in this one too.
Yeah, from what I understand, it was kind of supposed to be designed kind of like Romanesque statues.
Yeah, that's what I read too. They
Sure.
wanted, like, the detailed, like, molding or
Yeah.
something, and
But yeah, there's like some nipples on the pectoral muscles of the suit in Batman and Robin. They're like they're very graphic for a suit. That's all I'm going to say. It doesn't make any sense why they're there. Period. They get worse in the next movie. So they Robin gets his new suit with nipples, of course, and they get a car and a boat and they go save the day. Try
Mhm.
to, and this is the plot just keeps getting crazier. Every time you think, okay, this is it, this is gonna be the end of the movie, there's another thing they have to do. Eventually, they trick Two Face to killing himself in a way on accident. I was watching it this time. I was like, why didn't Batman save him? He just lets him fall to his death. That doesn't seem like a thing Batman would do.
Yeah, I don't think there was much Batman could have done in that specific situation because 'cause they're sort of, like, on beams, like, high above the water at this
Sure.
point, and Two-Face flips his coin to see if he's gonna let them live or not. As he's flipping his coin, Batman throws up a whole bunch of other coins, and Harvey basically falls to his death by trying to keep track of which coin is his,
Hmm.
which also seems like a very stupid move on his part. Like, it just feels, like, really easy.
Hmm. Yeah.
Like, almost like he's, I don't know, like a cat with a laser beam. Like, I don't know. It just
Yeah.
seems like such a ridiculous way to defeat him.
I still think he could have saved him. He just literally dove down and saved two people with one batarang or bat grapple or
Right,
whatever.
that's
So
true.
he could have
Mhm.
done it. It's Batman. He's been in
Coulda made it happen. Yeah,
worse
yeah, yeah.
predicaments, yeah. So he
Um,
dies. Bye.
mhm. Yeah, bye, Harvey. You get a nice close up of Robin's face, like, watching. his like Two-Face hand like slide into the water
Mm-hmm.
because that's the man that killed his whole family.
Mm-hmm.
Riddler goes insane because of his own device. His face gets really
Yes.
melty and it's icky.
Weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he throws a thing. He basically like tries to outriddle the Riddler, but it's just to distract him, and he throws a batarang at the giant box thing that's feeding him all the intelligence, and it like overreacts or something. And then there's this really bad computer scene where like Jim Carrey's face gets all wiggly and stretchy, and
Yeah.
it just looks silly. But then
It,
afterwards, like he's got some sort of like prosthetic and makeup on because then he just looks like a potato face.
right, yeah. But in the end he ends up in like the asylum.
Yeah.
And I did like the little bit where Chase Meridian's going to see him because he's claiming to know who Batman is, and you're all worried that he's going to give away, Bruce Wayne's alter ego. And then he pops out saying that he's Batman, and he's like cut up his straitjacket to be like wings, and that's the last we see of him.
Yeah. And Chase Meridian's like, oh, he's definitely crazy.
Yeah,
Thanks.
that's the thing too. Doctor, she just calls people wacko all the time,
Mm.
which is not an official term. Like, I don't know, I just don't feel like she's a great doctor, personally. But then we end the movie assuming her and Bruce Wayne are together,
Yeah, I would make that assumption. Yeah.
and also that Batman and Robin are partners now.
Oh, 100%. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. Chase and Bruce are together because I think at some point, very loosely, even though he tried like 100 times, I think, confesses that he is both one and the same. I forget when that happens, but it like happens like almost happens 100 times, and then eventually it does, and I forget which scene it was, and like I don't care anymore.
Yeah, but also did she not like have that kind of spoiled for her when she was being held by Riddler and Two-Face and Batman showed up and they were like, "We know you're Bruce Wayne" or
I
whatever.
think she already knew before that.
Okay,
I think
okay.
it's the scene. I think it's before like they get attacked at Wayne Manor. Like they're in the living room
Oh,
with the fire.
yeah, when he's like trauma dumping on her.
Yeah, trauma dump number three.
Oh boy. Overall, I mentioned already, I really liked Val Kilmer as Bruce Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like once he was Batman, it could have been anyone, I guess. I didn't like I sort of lost the sense of it being like Val Kilmer specifically. I don't know what the point of Nicole Kidman's character was, but she was in it.
There she is.
There she is. I think Jim Carrey is way too much for me. I don't think personally I could go back and rewatch something like Ace Ventura like after how just like personally annoyed I got watching this. Drew Barrymore, is it weird that she is reduced to such a small part in this movie? Because I
Yes
feel
and
like she's
no.
always been super famous, but I don't know
Well,
where her career was at this point.
so yeah, she's been a star since ET, right?
Yeah.
And as a kid, I probably thought she was like 50 years old because she's been in every movie growing up. Like, you don't have a sense of
Yeah.
time.
Oh,
You
exactly.
you're a kid, you see a kid actor, then like the next movie, she's an adult because you don't know how time works when you're that young.
Yeah.
But I think she's like 20-ish in this movie, and so she's kind of, I'm assuming, like transitioning from some of the cutesier roles, and then she ends up doing that again, obviously.
Yeah.
And one of the movies before that was, ironically enough, called Poison Ivy,
Oh,
where
yeah.
she's like a seductress, but she's like young still for that movie.
Okay.
But yeah, a little research I did, and she actually was just asked by Joel and Val to be in the movies. Like they were friends. Like, oh, you want to do this small role? And she's like, okay, cool. Yeah.
All right. Wanted to make a little point about this era of like movie soundtracks we were in the
Mm.
90s.
Oh,
Um,
solid.
so obviously there's the U2 song that plays over the credits.
Mm-hmm.
I totally forgot that this was the Batman movie that Kiss from a Rose was
Ugh,
from.
it's probably the greatest thing out of this movie.
The chokehold that song had on my entire fifth grade class, man. I literally remember there was this game we would play in music class where the teacher would throw out words that you'd have to sing like a couple lines of a song that had those words in it. And for some reason, like Kiss from a Rose was used like constantly. But I just remember it being everywhere, like on the radio, because radio was a thing.
Yeah.
I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure actually I own this soundtrack on cassette.
I don't think I do. I do know it goes pretty hard. I remember when I was little watching this, probably then on VHS, now on DVD, and I did this for this watch. I just let the credits go, and this is way before like you expect to see a cutscene at the end of a movie.
Mm.
It was just because of the U2 and Seal songs. Like even as a kid, like these songs are pretty dope.
Personally, I also loved Foolish Games by Jewel. That was on the
Hmm.
soundtrack. Like a deep cut, I guess. I mean, it's not in the movie, so.
Okay.
I don't feel like this happens anymore, with the exception of maybe like the Barbie movie that came out a couple years ago. Like songs that were written specifically for a movie that's not like a musical.
Yeah.
And you could buy a soundtrack that is supposedly the feel of the movie, even though this is kind of a weird combination of songs now that we're talking about it.
Yeah, because the way people get music these days is a little bit different. So a soundtrack, it would just drop it all on a streaming service, and it wouldn't exactly get radio play. I mean, it's different now how all that works, anyways. But yeah, it's like you said, mid '90s soundtracks. The Crow, I mean, up there, but it's like a vibe. Like all the songs fit, even though all the bands are way different. It was sometimes more about the music than the movie represented, even though
Hmm.
typically if it was a good movie or you like the movie, you'd like the soundtrack. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's I miss those days.
If you don't have any other points you would like to make, I'd like to read a couple quotes that I came across in my research
Sure.
on this movie. I found this article from the New York Times about the point they were trying to make was this was the most 90s movie of the 90s, but they wrote Joel Schumacher favored showy camera angles and a garish color scheme. The villains, Jim Carrey played the Riddler, Tommy Lee Jones was Two-Face, were freely permitted to chew the scenery. Batman's suit had nipples. The movie was weird.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I feel like that sums it up pretty well. Like, cut
Yeah.
the whole podcast, like, this is fine. Read this little blurb. But on that note, I found a quote from Tim Burton specifically about the batsuit having nipples that I thought was too good not to share. He's being interviewed by Empire magazine. He's discussing, leaving the Batman franchise. He says, "They went the other way. That's the funny thing about it. But then I was like, wait a minute. Okay, hold on a second here. You complain about me. I'm too weird. I'm too dark. And then you put nipples on the costume? Go fuck yourself. Seriously." So, yeah, I think that's why I didn't end up doing another film in the series. But on that whole note, I guess we should wrap up our little Batman franchise history by saying that Shoemaker did go on to direct one more Batman movie, uh, Batman and Robin, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, with George Clooney as Batman. There's kind of different stories about why Val Kilmer did not come back to portray Batman again. Some things I read said he wasn't interested in the role anymore. Specifically, wasn't interested in the role the way it was being written, like in this iteration. However, there are quotes from Schumacher admitting that he called Val Kilmer psychotic after making this movie with him.
Hmm.
They apparently had a pretty good working relationship at first, to the point where he even offered Val Kilmer the lead role in A Time to Kill, which I think maybe went on to be his next movie that he directed. Um, but by the end of filming Batman Forever, they were very much at odds, and to the point where Schumacher publicly called Val Kilmer psychotic.
Right. Yeah, I found a quote on Screen Rant. I forget what the original article was, but Schumacher said Val was being irrational and ballistic with the first AD, the cameraman, the costume people. He was childish and impossible. I was forced to tell him that this would not be tolerated for one more second. And then we had 2 weeks where we did not speak, but it was bliss. Also, Tommy Lee Jones really did hate Jim Carrey, at least on set. So that vibe you felt where Jim Carrey as the Riddler was annoying Two Face was probably layered in realism.
You know what though? I feel like for me personally, if I had that man prancing around me every damn day at work, because like who knows if he was staying in character outside of filming
He
too,
probably was. He
I
probably
would have
was.
lost my mind.
Yeah. Hmm.
Like, I get overwhelmed at the end of the day when my kid is too crazy. Like,
Yeah.
my God, working with Jim Carrey sounds like a special kind of hell.
Nice.
Like, especially like 90s Jim Carrey, like this Jim Carrey. And I hate saying that because actually, like, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is one of my favorite movies, and he's obviously the lead in that, but it's like, I can handle that version of him.
Mm.
Oh, but so for a quick wrap up of our Batman history, basically, Batman and Robin, it did all right at the box office, but it was critically panned and kind of considered one of the worst movies like ever. One of the worst blockbusters ever, at least, is what I found. I just had to include these quotes from Schumacher. I just hope whenever I see a list of the worst movies ever made, we're not on it. I didn't do a good job. After Batman and Robin, I was scum. It was like I had murdered a baby.
He did.
I guess. Yeah, if you were a really big Batman fan, he did murder your baby.
Yeah. It was. I mean, I guess where do you think it's going to go? Because if you look at all four of those films, they do get progressively sillier. I mean, I wouldn't call Batman Returns a silly movie, but it does have a little bit more over the top scenes and costumes and stuff than the first one. And then this one pivots and it gets just full of color and crazy lines. And then Batman and Robin, they're all bets are off. Everything's just a joke on top of a joke.
Yeah. Do we want to talk about whether the movie held up? Then we can talk about Val Kilmer a little bit more.
Sure.
Did it ever hold up? Really? Like,
Yes.
yes.
Listen, hold on. Here's my argument. Do movies need to be critically good to hold up? Probably. However, this one for me, and there seems to be a very silly line here, but between Forever and Batman and Robin, even though they're very much kind of in the same light, this is they're at the edge of the cliff before they fall off, which is the next movie.
Hmm.
And at points in Batman Forever, you get real close to falling off that edge. But maybe 6 feet ain't so far down. And it gets reeled back a little bit. Maybe because of Jim Carrey's over the top silliness, you think that's going to knock you over the edge, but somehow it brings it in because everyone else around him in the scenes are more serious, which is
Hmm.
a lot to say because Tommy Lee Jones is probably the craziest you ever see Tommy Lee Jones as far
Hmm.
as like a silly person.
Yeah.
But then you have like Val Kilmer as very serious Bruce Wayne,
Hmm.
Chase Meridian, which is she's not silly, but she's definitely silly to watch in
Yeah.
this movie for different reasons. I know it's a mix of Batman lore, cartoon comic, and like 90s action film. It's somehow you put that in the
Hmm.
blender, and I still enjoyed it. I can still talk about all the bad decisions that were made and poke fun at it, but I will gladly watch this one again. 9 times out of 10, watch this over Batman and Robin. I will probably only watch that movie because I'm doing a marathon. I'm like, well, I got to complete the set.
It's funny. I really want to watch Batman and Robin now to like compare the two,
Do it.
especially because like, I personally enjoy the so bad it's good kind of thing. So I'm
Hmm.
interested to see like, does it fall into that or is it really just bad? Um, for Batman Forever, I mean, I had fun with it at first. I was enjoying it more than I expected to. Like I said about the first half, by the second hour, I was just kind of done. Like,
Hmm.
I don't know. It was fun for a while. I still think, Jim Carrey is the Riddler. Excellent casting, but still, I feel like I had a headache after this movie, and it was mostly because of Jim Carrey. I don't know. Like what you like. It doesn't have to be critically acclaimed by any means, but holy 90s Batman.
I mean, I guess really for all intents and purposes for the podcast, this is like the perfect film to talk about because I could watch it in like opening credits, like you said. It just brings you
Mhm.
right to our childhood,
Oh yeah.
and it's tough watching it at almost 40 and not picking it apart.
Oh yeah.
Um, it's just an adult, just like some of these things, like the dialogue and swooning over Batman and all these things. It's like okay, yeah, it takes me out of it a little bit, but then if you just appreciate, let's just appreciate the silliness as a whole. It is like a work of art. It's like if Picasso dropped acid before he painted. Like it's great.
My God. You mentioned this dialogue. Some of it was just too cringy. Like again, so bad it's good. I can appreciate that. There are some really bad movies I enjoy watching, knowing they're
Hmm.
bad. But there were just too many moments in this one where I was getting like secondhand embarrassment, especially for Chase Meridian.
Hmm.
I just couldn't do it. I don't know. But
Yeah.
that all being said, I do want to go like rewatch all of them now.
Yeah. I we didn't mention it from like the first time we mentioned the Bank of Chase Meridian, but I noticed like I don't think she's a short actress, but you can never tell because she was married to Tom Cruise, who's short, and everything's on camera, so you don't know how tall anyone is. But the point being is they often showed her at like a higher angle, and I can't help it's because she kept, like I said earlier, breathing very heavily. So I think they were
Yeah.
choosing to show off other assets besides her acting talent, I believe. So that kind of was like, oh, he did it the first time as introduction. Okay, cool. She's a beautiful woman. And then like they kept doing it. Like, okay, she's not like 4 foot tall. Can we get a different angle, please?
Yeah, that's a good point. I always thought of Nicole Kidman as being tall, but again, like you said, was it just because she was married to Tom Cruise? So honorable mentions for Val Kilmer movies.
Yes, I have a few. I'm gonna stick up for Joel Schumacher here. Definitely mention Tombstone. That's
The movie that apparently got Val Kilmer the role of Batman.
I mean I that's where my defense like ends because I can't really draw a line between Doc Holliday, how he performed that, and not saying he did a bad job as Bruce Wayne Batman, but it just I can't connect. It's like two different people
Yeah,
or three different people.
it's okay. I felt
Um,
like Bruce Wayne and Batman were two different people in this movie,
exactly.
so
The Ghost in the Darkness. I haven't seen the movie in a
I'm not
very long
familiar with
time.
that one.
I think it's him and Michael Douglas, and they're in Africa hunting lions that are terrorizing a local tribe because they've got like the taste of like man blood, and they're like these two lions are terrorizing this tribe and killing everybody, and they're big game hunters. I believe it's very loosely based off something true.
Hmm.
I Again, it's been a long time since I've seen it, so don't quote any of that. If it's false, then I just misremember. I did read for some background on this movie that apparently, I don't know how true this is either, that Val Kilmer got the notification that he was going to play Batman while he was in a literal bat cave for this movie, for Ghost in the Darkness, because they're in Africa. 1995's Heat. And then obviously The Doors. And I think my first introduction to him was Real Genius. I don't remember much of that movie. It was definitely on Comedy Central. Probably not one of my favorite Val Kilmer movies. I just wanted to bring that up because I think I knew who he was in Batman Forever because watching this on like rerun or catching bits and pieces of it on Comedy Central made me familiarize at least with his face. And I
Hmm.
don't think I've seen Top Gun yet. So,
Oh, yeah, I gotcha. Heat would have been on the list for me as well. But it's funny because, when the news broke that Val Kilmer had passed away and people were talking about his movies, it wasn't at the front of my mind because I always think of Heat as being like the movie everyone always hypes up because it's Al Pacino and Robert De Niro finally being together.
mm-hmm.
And I wasn't thinking of it as being a Val Kilmer movie. I had to put Kill the Irishman on my list just because now that movie will forever have a special place in my heart because of our ridiculous conversation about it, and also because Val Kilmer played the best crime fighting cop on the shores of Lake Erie.
I mean,
Um,
obviously, yes.
Obviously, this is how I'll always remember him. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. I personally liked him and Robert Downey Jr. playing off of each other. Willow, which personally is not one of my favorite movies. But my first year in college, I had roommates who really liked Willow, and I had actually never seen it. Um, so when I think about like my freshman year in college, I think about like watching Willow with my roommates, which probably tells you what kind of like cool college experience I had. This was even before I was at CSU and before I was like officially in like a film program. But I feel like Willow for me was one of those movies. If you didn't see it as a kid, it doesn't like hit right. Seeing it as like a 19-year-old, I was just kind of like, okay. But
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen Willow like as a movie. I know I've seen bits and pieces of it, even in like it was like a child. This is probably Will's probably my first actual introduction to Val Kilmer. I just didn't realize what was going on in this movie because I never saw it in its entirety, and I might have been just really young, and it was just on. I mean, I probably should give it a go, but it might be even worse for me now at 40 than you at 19.
yeah, it's funny. I was thinking about, like I said, just all these movies I want to revisit and, Val Kilmer movies I haven't even seen before. Like I've obviously seen clips of him playing Jim Morrison, but I've never seen The Doors.
Mm.
And I'm thinking about how I want to watch all these things, and then I'm thinking about revisiting Willow maybe with my son because like that's a kids movie, right? But yeah, like interested to see how that goes. Like you said, with me as an almost 40-year-old, had to put Top Gun on here. I'm not super into Top Gun, but he's my favorite part of Top Gun. I love just like he's such an ass and the way he like snaps his gum in Tom Cruise's face all the time, and he's actually like not in the movie that much, but he's like my
No,
favorite part of Top Gun. I like that he had his little like cameo in the second Top Gun, but also I'm not really a Tom Cruise fan. So I appreciate what a dick Val Kilmer is to him in Top Gun.
jeez.
I know. Honestly, doing this episode just made me realize how many big roles of his I haven't seen. There's also a documentary that came out about him a few years back called Val that I'm pretty sure he was involved in.
I think you're right.
That I remember people at least speaking highly of it, so that might be worth checking out too. And he has an autobiography called I'm Your Huckleberry.
Nice.
Well, we would love to hear your thoughts on Val Kilmer and Batman Forever, as well as your own favorite Val Kilmer movies. You can find us on Instagram at Back Through the Lens Pod and on Facebook at Back Through the Lens. You can also email us at backthroughthelenspodcast@gmail.com. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please leave us a rating and review. It's the best way to support our show.
If you enjoyed our show today, please give us a like and follow for updates on new and future episodes. Our show is produced by our hosts, Rachel Campbell and myself, Joe Siomick, with additional help and support from Peter Tellup of LPV Productions. Peter, Rachel, and I are also the executive producers. Our awesome logo is brought to you by Tom Fracci, and our wonderful theme song is by Matt Tarek. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more trips into our movie watching past on Back Through the Lens.
Stop talking about Batman. I'm going to stop it.
I'll still talk about Batman. I'm never going to stop talking about Batman.